Flowers are the reproductive organs in angiospermic plant. They are basically condensed stem where the internode gets condensed to form much condensed structure that goes by the name of thalamus or receptacle. On the thalamus or receptacle, the leaves which are modified leaves are arranged in hole, the outermost hole being sepals, green in color and protective in function, and the next innermost is the petal, which is colorful and for attracting the pollinators. And if it is a wind pollinated flower, then it will not contain the petals, and in a complete flower inner to the petal is the two inner reproductive layer, that is the outer androecium and inner gynoecium in a complete flower. Flower, however, can be a unisexual, that is incomplete with only either gynoecium or androecium present in flower. Hello friends, I am Dr. Ayantika Das, and in this video I am going to discuss about the morphology of flower, which is very important. This is a basic video on which many topics regarding the CSI net and also set of various state can be solved, because many a times many alternative years we see questions coming from the ABC model of flower. But in order to understand the ABC model, you have to first understand the basic structure of flower. Also, this topic is very basic introductory video for MSc and BSc syllabus also. So stay with me till the end of the video, and I start the video with this. So any stem is, we know, is divided into node and internode, but in case of flower, which is a modified stem, we say much condensed stem, the internodes, they are very much condensed. And if we see from the upper surface, we see that this condensed internode has got holes of modified leaves. The leaves that are borne on this modified stem, condensed stem, is also modified. And what we see from the top view or transverse section, we see that it has got an inner female gynoecium, and surrounding the female gynoecium are several or single layer or single hole of androecium, that is the male organ. And next to the male organ, outer to the male organ, are the protective non-reproductive layer of petals. So these are the inner two layers in red are the reproductive layer, and the outer two layer that I am drawing here in yellow and again in green will be the non-reproductive layer. So the yellow that I have drawn is the petals, which is help in attracting birds and other pollinators to the flower, and are generally absent in wind pollinated flower or in water pollinated flower. So this type of flower, there is no need of the petals, so they are absent. So the thing that I have drawn, the outer hole that I have drawn in green, they are the sepals, which are nothing but the outermost protective layer. The outermost protective hole, which is green in color, generally green in color, collectively they form the calyx. So sepals, collectively they are called calyx. They are protective in function, they are much thick, and generally green, contains stomata. As they are green, they are chlorophyllous and photosynthetic, but the rate of photosynthesis in this calyx is much slower than that of the leaves. Their main function is protective. So the calyx can be, depending upon the type of color, they can be two type. Here we see it is green in color, so this it looks like a leaf and modified leaf. So green colored sepals are called sepaloid sepals, and if it is not green colored but it is colored like just the color of petals, very much colored, then it is called the petaloid sepals. So based on color, the sepals can be sepaloid and petaloid, and based on texture they can be either very waxy, smooth, or they can be covered with very thin unicellular, multicellular hair. So then it becomes a hirsute sepal. Sepal can also be, depending upon the length of time it stays on the flower or later the fruit, it can be two types. One is the deciduous caudoous, or another is the persistent. So the deciduous, here it will not stay for long, but in case of in certain flowers, especially even in the fruits, we see here in brinjal, we see, let me draw it in red, then you will understand. So here we see that this structure, this here in the brinjal, and also here, these are all members of the Solanaceae. So these two type of these are the two just examples, and all these two belong to Solanaceae. So persistent type of calyx are present in this Solanaceae, very common in Solanaceae, and it's in fact one of the characteristic feature. Also we see in tomatoes also, which is also another Solanaceae family plant. So this type of persistent calyx is present. This is protective in function, as you can see here in this diagram. It is protective. So apart from this, there can be also some modifications, like here we see this is the inferior ovary in banana, and these are the tepals. Now what is tepals? When the outer sepal and the inner petal, they do not form a separate whole, but they form together, they form a single whole, and they are called the tepals. So when the sepal and petal cannot be distinguished into separate wholes, or cannot be distinguished, they form a structure called the tepals. And a collection of tepals is called a perianth. When the tepals they are arranged, that is tepals they are arranged, they together they form, what they form is the perianth. So the calyx can be free, the sepals can be free or united at the base. This is how the calyx is, we see they are united at the base region, they are united. Here also it is united at the basal region and free at the tip. So this periwinkle and hibiscus, this type of where calyx is united at the base, it is called the gamosepalous. And when it is free, this here it is free, then it is called the polycephalus. And polycephalus is common in rose, in poppy. And also very important is the merosity. Whether the outer sepal or the inner petals, the number of sepal or the number of petal will be fixed for a particular species of plant. So it can be either 5 or 4 or 3. When the merosity is 5, it is called the pentameric, which is very common in the Fabaceae and Solanaceae family. Fabaceae is the pulse family, and Solanaceae includes tomatoes, potatoes and all. When the merosity is 4, then it is characteristic of Brassicaceae family, that is the rapeseed, the mustard, all these have a merosity of 4, that is four petals, four sepals, and if the merosity is 3, then it is characteristic of the monocots. So merosity is very important while we remember what type of family a flower belongs to, or while drawing the floral diagram and also the floral formula. We should it's very important to remember the merosity of a flower. So, calyx, according to type, according to modification or its structure, it can be tubular, tube-like, tubular in Nicotiana. It can be a funnel-shaped, that is the infundibuli form, a funnel-shaped structure. Here we see it can be an urn-shaped structure, that is the urceolate. It can be bilipped, that is two-lipped structure. It can be a bell-shaped, that is in campanulate. It can be a cup-shaped, that is in cupulate. It can be a cup-shaped calyx. It can be also very thin and feathery, that is pappus. Here we see it is characteristic of Asteraceae. One thing I should be saying, that while we see that we have a different type of corolla, and each of the corolla type, they are characteristic of a particular family. So while reading, we should be very careful about remembering, because sometimes the question comes that match the following. So this type of calyx or this type of corolla comes with what type of family. So there will be a match the following in net or any other competitive exam like set. So we should be very careful. Like for example, this pappus, it is characteristic of Asteraceae, that is the sunflower family. Also we see this spinous type of calyx. It is very characteristic of the Lamiaceae family flower. They have this type of calyx. So we should be very careful about remembering these things, what type of calyx present in which type of family. So another type of important type of calyx is a petaloid, where the color of the calyx or the sepals, they are not green, they are colored due to the presence dominance of carotenoid or other colored pigment. And this type of petaloid type of sepals are present where the petals are either absent or if present very inconspicuous. The sepals can also be hooded. Here we see this structure. Petals, hooded, colored sepals. They are called corolla. Is the second inner layer, inner core of a flower. And we see that these are the petals. Whenever we think of flower, the first thing that comes in our mind are the colorful petals. But this color is mainly to attract the pollinator. Some of the flowers, they are not colored, they are white, especially the flowers that bloom at night. They have got scent to attract the moth and bats. Also, they have some nectaries in the base of their here in this region. They will have some nectaries at the base of their petals. So these night blooming flowers or flowers that do not have a very colorful petal, they have either nice or bad scent and nectaries at their base. Now scent can be good and as well as very rotting scent, especially Rafflesia, which is one of the largest flower, and that flower has got a very scent that is equivalent to that of the rotting meat. So that type of scent is used to attract other type of insects. So basically we see that petals here, they are either brightly colored or white color. They can be very large or inconspicuous. Petals, they are absent or very inconspicuous in wind pollinated flowers. Wind pollinated flowers, they do especially the male flowers, they have a catkin-like inflorescence. So when they are moved or swayed by the wind, so the pollination occur. So they do not have extra structures like these petals for attracting, because their pollination is by wind. Similarly, the female flower will also not contain any petal, but the stigma, the female part, is feathery to attract, to attach the pollen that is borne in the wind. So such type of flowers will not contain petals. But general characteristic is that petal have a this a narrow base and a very large upper portion. So this upper portion, this region is called the blade. The blade. This region is the blade, and this region at the base, it is this narrow region is called the claw, and the intermediate region, that is this region, this is called the limb. So this is the basic three regions of a petal, normal petal, and these petals or and the outer sepal, that is the outer layer of sepal and the inner layer of petal, can sometimes be very indistinguishable. That is, we cannot distinguish the petals from the sepals, and that type of structure where petal and sepal cannot be distinguished, they form a single whole called the perianth. That is the perianth. Perianth, and each member of the perianth is called the tepal. Each member, that is in the outer calyx, they are called the sepal, inner corolla, they are called petal, but if they form a single layer, that is a perianth, then it is called the tepal. So the petals can be fused at their base and free. Here we see they are fused at the base and they have a free at the apical region. This type of petal is called the gamopetalous or sympetalas or fused petal. And we see this trumpet flower, this datura, this trumpet flowers, so they have a gamopetalous or sympetalas. Some petals can be free. For here example, this example where rose's petals are free. Here also we see the petals are free. So this type of free petal is called the polypetalous or choriopetalous, where the petals are free. Then we see that depending upon the arrangement of petals, petals can be cruciform, that is, petals are arranged in a cross way, that is, one petal arranged here and another just opposite to it. So this type of cruciform. Then there caryophyllaceous, where the petal, they are fused at the base and then they have a 90-degree turn. So this type of petal where there is a 90-degree angle between the base and the apex, this is the caryophyllaceous. It can be also rosaceous and papillonaceous, where petal they have a very large, the size of the petals all are not equal size. So this type of flower where the petals are of different size and they are arranged like this, so they are arranged like this. It is a papillonaceous. It is characteristic of Fabaceae. So this type of arrangement is called papillonaceous. It can be also tubular, where we see the that the petals, they are fused till a quite long length of the petal is it is fused, and this is especially in the tuberose. And then you have this campanulate, which is in the morning glory. Then you have this infundibly form, that is the funnel shaped in the trumpet flowers. So these type, not only these are the few examples how the petals are arranged. There are many examples that I'll discuss in a detailed video. So these are the things that I have been shown.
Gynoecium
So
is
exclude
the
these
third
things.
innermost layer from the outer, the sepal, the petal, and this one is the stamen, that is the outer third layer, and it consists of this stamens, which are basically consist of a filament and an anther sac. This one is the anther sac, which contains anther. This one, these are the inside, these small things are the pollen, and this one is the, this region consists of the connective tissue. This connective tissue is a sterile tissue, and the fertile region are, there are four fertile regions, that is the these anther sacs, which contains in it the anther or the microspores. So this is the transverse section. This one is the transverse section of the anther sac, which is mounted on the top of this filament. Now, there are various variations in the shape, size, type of attachment of the stamens, and also the method of dehiscence that I will be discussing in the next slide. So we see that these are the various ways by which the stamens are attached. They can be free from one another, or they can be united, that is all the filament portion, this portion filament here, it is here free, but here we see that the filament, they are united into a tube, or few filaments, they unite into a tube, and in this way we see a group of filaments that each of which few of the filaments, they form several tubes. That is here three filaments, they form a single tube. So this type of attachment of the filament region. But sometimes the filament here, the filaments are free, the filaments, they are free, but instead the anther region, that is the anther region, they are fused. So there are also, these are the examples where we see here all the filaments, they are fused together. That is the type of anther we find in Androecium, we find in just shoe flower or hibiscus. Then we have this didelphus, where we see that there is a single filament and another group. There is one single filament and a group. Here in this group, all the filaments, they are united, and a single filament is present. So there is two type of arrangement of filament here. One is grouped and another is a single. So such type of arrangement is called didelphus. Then we see a group of several filaments groups, that is here this one is the polydelphus. Sometimes the filament is free and the anther is attached, that is this one and this one. And also sometimes the anther as well as the filament as well as the anther, both are fused, that is the synandrous. Attachment of the anther to the filament. Now it can be attached at the base, that is called basifix. It can be attached on either side of the filament that is called adnate, where we see this is the connector. There, it can be attached on the dorsal surface, in the central point of the dorsal surface of the anther sac. So that is called dorsifixed. Now there can be also connective, the connective that we see that among the four lobe there are the microsporangial sac containing the pollen, and this central region that contain the connective. That connective, this is how the connective is elaborate. The connective gets divided, and they gets divided so much that the pollen sac, the anther lobes, gets detached. This type of connective is called divaricate. This type is called divaricate. It is a very common feature in the insect pollinated flower, especially the bee. When they entered, sit on the flower, if this is the bee and it is sitting on the flower, then its pressure causes the upper fertile lobe of the anther to brush against the body of the bee, and pollen gets collected in the body of the bee, and when this bee goes to another flower, next flower, it pollinates the flower. So anther can also
Anther
have
lobes,
this
they are of
feathery
different
appendix on its
shape and
top,
size. Namely, this
and
one is a kidney shaped or reniform. Here, anther lobe can also be linear like this. Anther lobe can also be round like this. It can be sagittate also. And here we see this one is a spiny anther, where the anther lobe is quite spiny.
about the anther dehiscence. Anther dehiscence can be in the form of pores, that is apical or the apical pore, which is called the porous type. It can be in the form of a slits. The slit can be along the entire length, then it is a longitudinal slit type of anther dehiscence. It can be, the slits can be transverse, then it is called the transverse slit. It can also be in the form of valves, like here. From here the pollens are extruded. Also there cannot be any, sometimes there is no a clean slit, but it occurs like a irregular dehiscence. This type of irregular dehiscence is also very common method of pollen extrusion or anther dehiscence.
Gynoecium carpel is the female whorl which is in the innermost. This gynoecium is surrounded by one or more whorls of androecium. It can be one whorl of androecium or two whorls of androecium, that is the male part. This occurs in a bisexual flower. Otherwise, in unisexual flower, it is the innermost and not surrounded by the male whorl. Here in this diagram we are seeing a bisexual flower where the outermost whorl is sepal, the next is the petal, the third layer is the stamen, and the innermost layer is the pistil. As we can see that pistil is made up of this structure. This is the stigma, which is the receptive region for the pollen. Pollen falls here and the pollen tube grows inside through the pistil and reaches the ovary. Now here in this diagram, the gynoecium contains many egg cells, and thus we can see that the gynoecium can contain one or many eggs have. The style portion, that is this portion here that I am drawing in green, it can be either hollow or made up of filled up with tissue. And in case of it is hollow, the pollen tube grows, there is no problem. But when it is filled with tissue, then a pollen tube grows through the intercellular space among the cells. So this is the transverse section, how gynoecium looks like. Position of the gynoecium with respect to the other folds in the thalamus. Now, hypogynous. When the gynoecium, it is present above the rest three folds. That is, this one is the sepal, this one is the petal, this one is the androecium, and we see that gynoecium, it occurs above all the rest of the holes. So this type of ovary, superior ovary, it is called a hypogynous arrangement of the gynoecium or carpel. When it occurs at a lower position to the other rest of the whole, that is the sepals, petals, and the androecium. Both all the three other holes are occurring above the ovary. Then it is called the epigynous or inferior ovary. When it is occurring semi-hypogynous or semi-epigynous, then it is called a perigynous. That is the gynoecium. Here we see that it is not fully inferior ovary, not fully superior ovary. So this type of arrangement is called perigynous. Then we see how the carpels, that is the gynoecium, is arranged. When there is a single carpel in a flower, then it is called monocarpous. When there is multiple carpels in a flower, then it is called, and the carpels are detached, not fused, then it is called apocarpus. And when there are many carpels but they are not fused, they are fused, actually they are fused, then it is called syncarpous. Syn means together, and carpel, so we know that it is actually the female part. So when they are fused, it is called syncarpous. And the number of chamber, here it is given 3, it can be more than 3. So this is the mode of arrangement of several carpels. Bracts, they are structures that are present in some flowers or may be absent in some flowers. Now this is the flower of banana, where this brownish colored structure is the bract. Bract can be present in flowers, also it is absent in some flowers. In hibiscus, where we see that in hibiscus we see that this is the sepals, this is the petals, and just at the base of the sepals we see this type of structures. These are the bracts of hibiscus and these are the bracts of banana. So basically bract are structures that are developed at the base of the pedicel. We know that this is the floral thalamus or receptacle, and the stalk is called the pedicel. At the base of the pedicel, this bract is seen. This is the stalk, the floral stalk, and we see that these are the region where the flowers were once born. So this basically the function of bract is just protective in function. It is also called an involucre. We see that many flowers are bracteate, so they have this division BR, and when it is bracts are absent, then it is called ebracteate. So here we see that this is the flower, and this one at the base of the pedicel or the stalk, we are seeing this bract. Here, these are the bracts of hibiscus that I talked about. And you see this tulip, it does not have bract, instead it has leaf. This is also an ebracteate flower. This is a ebracteate flower. We denote ebracteate by EBR and bracteate flowers by BR. Very good example of bract is also this bougainvillea, where this colored structure is actually the bract, and this very small region, this I'm drawing it in yellow, very small structure, this is the flower, and this one highly colored structure is the bract. About the floral diagram, we know that the flowers can be, according to the symmetry, it can be asymmetric, where any flower, if it in any plane of division, if it is asymmetric, for example this type of flower, this type of symmetry, then we see that any plane, it is not symmetrical. Any plane of division, we cannot divide the flower into symmetry, and especially canna is an example of asymmetric flower. And in the symmetry, we see two types of symmetry. Here in radial symmetry, where we see that these are the planes of division, and in any case we see that the any plane of division, the parts are symmetrical. If this is the plane of division, then we see that there is two equal part of symmetrical part, and if this is the plane of division, then also we see that there is two symmetrical part. So this type of symmetry, where whatever be the plane of division, there is a symmetry in between the two parts that is formed by the plane of division. So this type of plane of division, it is called, this type of arrangement is called radial symmetrical. Then it can also be a bilateral symmetry, where in only one plane of division only we see that only one plane of division leads to the symmetrical pattern. In any other plane of division, there is no symmetry. So this is basically three type of symmetrical arrangement of the flowers. Now here we see the phyllotaxy. The term phyllotaxy means the arrangement of the floral whole. So it can be, here it is given only spiral and whole, which is the most common form. The spiral, all the floral wholes, they are arranged like this. So this is the spiral and this is the whole. So these are the very common most phyllotaxy in the floral members. Then we see the merosity. Here we see that the number of each of the floral whole is the merosity. This is a dimary, that is 2 number of floral whole. Trimary, 3. This is very common in the monocot, and the tetra and the pentameri. The tetra and the pentameri are very common in the angiospermic plants. Then we see the floral diagram. This is the floral diagram. We see this one here. It is a sign of radial symmetry.
So also it is the sign of radial symmetry. If it is a bilateral symmetry, then the signature sign will be like percentage. So this is a bilateral symmetry, biradial symmetry. So this we see. And also the outermost layer, this is the sepal, this is the petal, this is the floral diagram actually, and this one is the androecium, and the innermost, this is the gynoecium. And here in this Arabidopsis thaliana, we see that there is two locules in the ovary by carpellary ovary it is. And in order to understand, in order to write how the floral diagram actually we have to first understand what are the terms that we used in floral formula. So the if bract is present, it is not denoted as Br. If bract is absent in a flower, then we write it as EBr. Calyx is denoted as K, that is the outermost hole. Corolla or the petal is denoted by C. If the calyx and corolla both are not distinct, we have this perianth which is denoted by P. The male hole is the androecium. One or two hole, both are called androecium. And if the androecium is attached to the petal, then it is written as C with a bracket on the top of A. If the gynoecium is denoted by G, and if the ovary is inferior, then we have a bar on the top of G. If the ovary is perigynous, then we have a bar at the side of G. If the ovary is superior, then we have a bar at the under the G. And if it is a gamopetalous, that is the carpel petal is attached to the gynoecium, then it will be denoted like this. If it is a male flower, it will be denoted with an arrow, and if it is a female flower, then it will be denoted with a circle with a plus sign on the back, on the under. And if it is a bisexual, then this will be the notation. Actinomorphic flower will be denoted by a circle with a cross on the center, and zygomorphic flower, that is bilateral, it will be denoted by a percentage. If there is a cohesion of part, then if calyx is attached to androecium, then it will be written like this, or like this type of. If androecium is attached to the gynoecium, then at the base, then it will be written like this. Gynoecium is practically called G, and it is here it is written 2 because the number of carpels in the gynoecium is 2, and if it is free, then it is denoted by this bracket. It is denoted by this bracket. If it is fused, then there is no bracket written. And the number of holes can be written by this the number added, number of holes is written like here it is 2 hole, so it is written 2 plus 2. So that this was all about the basic of floral morphology that you will be needing in the ABC to understand the ABC flower model, as well as other things that I will be discussing while I discuss the net and set question papers. So this is an introductory video to those videos. This video will follow followed by those type of videos where I will be discussing about the floral model, about the pollination mechanism, and questions I will be discussing. And if you have any doubts or queries, do write in the comment section. And also, if you like my video, please share it with your friends, and hit the like button also. And do subscribe to my channel for encouraging me. And those who have already subscribed, thanks for subscription. Thanks again for watching this video.